I was doing a bet show, gambling show on the Worldwide Leader. The question I was asked went like this. Chael, Daniel Cormier says that he thinks this fight between Covington and Masvidal is going to be a lot closer than most purists believe. What do you think? And I said, let me start at the beginning. Here's what I think, just so you understand, Mr. TV reporter, the hierarchy of MMA here at ESPN. Daniel Cormier will think whatever I tell him to think. And the reason I told him to think that, these guys don't know each other. Now, you have not heard anybody, I'm going to bring the veil down right now. You have not heard anybody talk about, and don't forget, American Top Team, that is a warehouse. That is a mega monster gym. More people, more eyeballs, spectators, parents, girlfriends. It's full. And people saw Colby and George sparring many times. None of those spectators, none of those teammates, none of those coaches have spoken out and said what happened. Now, I'm going to break the veil, and I'm going to tell you what happened because I saw him sparring. And I saw Masvidal get on top never, and I saw Colby get on top often. That's the same thing everybody else saw. That isn't much. This isn't a wrestling match. Colby doesn't get points for being on top, and I don't think that came to any surprise to you guys that that's what I saw when I watched them going at it. I did not see Colby kicking Masvidal's ass, but Colby might have thought he was kicking his ass because he's a wrestler. But all he was doing was getting on top more times than Masvidal was. In all fairness, I never saw Masvidal get there. I do not believe these two know each other. I do not believe the workouts that I saw, the workouts that went on at Oregon State University, the workouts they did for 5 years, but the last one being over 3 years ago, have anything to do with this contest, particularly because Masvidal was a 155-pounder and wasn't even doing his best work. Masvidal's best work is done at 170 pounds. You have the BMF champion who won the belt and never lost it, taking on an interim champion who never lost, but somehow he doesn't have the belt anymore. This is a true super fight. You have the interim champion versus the BMF champion. I mean, this is a super fight and a clash like we've never seen. Set that aside. Will the emotions, hatred, too strong? My mother told me to never use that word hate, but hate is a word, which means at some point within linguistics, it's appropriate. Seems like that might be now. Is the hatred a good thing or a bad thing, and who's got more of it? Well, you're probably splitting hairs is the correct answer to that. Both of these guys are very fired up. You want to be fired up. You want to be motivated for whatever emotion you need to turn to, whether it's greed, whether it's glory, whether it's fear, whether it's spite. Really doesn't make a damn bit of difference when you're training. Whatever gets you out of bed at 5 a.m., puts those shoes on and goes and gets those miles in while the rest of the world is still thinking about their shower and their first cup of coffee. Whatever it is that does that. And yes, an anger, in this case a hatred, very good motivation. On fight night, you don't want to feel that. You want to make sure that you care, but that you care less than your opponent, because there is something called pressure and you can let him choke on it. You both are getting ready to do the same thing. One of you is going to choke on it, shove it down his mouth. That's what you want to do, and both of these athletes would tell you that that's exactly right. I've said everything correctly. How do you do it? It's not like these pro fighters, just because they got all this experience and they're fighting on television, they're selling out Madison Square Garden. They don't have anything that you don't have. They're human beings. They both know this to be true. They will both attempt to come in light, look at the task at hand, not the person standing across from them. You want to take on the athlete, not the reputation. And there's only one reason I feel like nobody tells you guys what it is. It creates a fatigue. If you have any type of emotion, particularly a negative one, but any type of emotion, it could be excitement isn't overly helpful. So excitement would be more helpful. But any emotion just creates a fatigue. If it's a negative emotion, you're going to get a negative reaction. That's very true. And when you're an endurance sport, which this is, Colby Covington is an endurance fighter. He is made for 5 rounds. He will never quit. He will never give up. But imagine it wasn't his choice because he let some emotion slip in that drained him. And all of a sudden, he's good for 12 to 16 minutes. He's going to have 9 to 12 minutes where he's going to be looking for a friend. I only offered that to you as an example because as much as you're seeing these guys and as worked up as they are, and a lot of you are going to be coming in, the line is moving and you guys are going to put some money down. Before you decide to handicap this thing, I'll tell you the big secret. I'll tell you exactly what happened when those two work out. Colby got on top more often than Masvidal. Does that matter? Does that matter as much as Colby thinks it matters? And you see why Colby would think it mattered. He was a wrestler. That's what he wanted to do. But you guys as fight fans, or imagine the judges, if everything's even, sure, positioning definitely comes in. But if that's the only thing that there's an advantage, you got on top of a guy a weight class down 3 years ago. It's a very different fight. So yes, when Daniel Cormier comes out and says this is going to be the biggest fight, and he says it's going to be a lot closer fight, I agree with that. You are not going to just get Masvidal out of there, and you're not going to back him down. And who knows what Masvidal has up his sleeve, by the way. He's got a plan of some sort. He's taken on great wrestlers. Ben Askren comes to mind, but he had a plan. He didn't just go out there and start fighting and raise a knee up. He had a very clear plan. Let's see what he's got in store for Colby. I think it's a very, very different fight. The good news, if you're a Covington fan, I can all but assure you, Colby's well aware of this. Colby is not counting on memories of getting on top of his old roommate when he was a weight class below for the reasons he's going to win this fight. He has studied him. He's broken him down. He's got his own camp with his own coaches, training partners specifically in there to emulate Masvidal. This is a fight that he has wanted for a period of time. It was a fight that he was likely to get had Kamaru Usman not beaten Burns, got on the worldwide leader of ESPN, and called out Masvidal, which then forced Colby to go do something else, which got him his own match for the championship. These guys have been wanting each other, and they were willing to do whatever it took to get there, including the Ultimate Fighter. Some fighters think that that's amazing. It's the greatest marketing vehicle that this sport has, the Ultimate Fighter. The other side of it is it's a ton of work, and a lot of guys just don't want to do it. These guys were willing to do it. They did not care. Whatever gets me in there. I don't know what confidence Colby has from his workouts with George. I don't. I can tell you he got on top. But I am pretty sure that I know what lack of confidence Masvidal left those with, which is none. Masvidal knows what I'm saying is true. He knows Colby got on top. That's it. That's not a lot, guys. You're wrestling at 100%. You're striking at no more than 80. Do you see the problem? I'm highly curious if both of these athletes know that. They're going to know it when this fight's over. They're going to go and get introduced on Saturday night. It's like they've never touched one another. But I am curious if they're aware of that right now.